Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to Tuesday Night Review. If you're watching this at any other time than Tuesday night, you're probably really not feeling up to it right now. Sorry. Today we're taking a look at Toby Fox's runaway smash hit, UnderTale. This week's review request comes from Mr. Conrad's X and That One Drew Guy, who is hoping I'll piss people off with my opinion. Well, who knows? There's insanity surrounding this game literally everywhere, so chances are I might, Drew Dog. So let's dive right into the review, shall we?
All right, it's time for some questions. We've been running out of time on the show, but what do you got?
Let's bring it on with Peyton first of all today. Peyton says, recently I was looking through my daughter's phone and I found many pictures of a cartoon skeleton with one glowing blue eye and wearing a hoodie. When I asked my daughter why she had such demonic images on her phone, she told me there was nothing wrong with it because it was from a video game. How do I help my daughter not be attracted to such demonic things?
We'll give her something better.
Golly, I sure do hate it when kids worship the devil behind their parents' backs.
I think it's a fad. These funny-looking things, I think I wouldn't make a big deal of it. I think if you do, you magnify
You drive her to it.
Yeah, you drive her to it. And if you got something more wholesome that she can enjoy, provide it for her. You must have something. There's got to be some video game that isn't so evil, but...
Quite right, guys. There's gotta be a game that isn't as evil as a cute little game that features a bunch of little wacky monsters you can befriend. Or kill! So this utterly unwholesome and demonic game that these religious wackos are referring to is none other than UnderTale. A game that, as these nutty folks demonstrated, to truly understand it, you really do have to play it and draw your own conclusions. But if by some cosmic fairy god miracle you somehow manage to avoid ever hearing about this game online, the worst thing you can possibly do is look up anything to do with this game online. Don't read any articles, don't watch any videos, just play it. Especially if you want to, 1, avoid spoilers, 2, avoid hype, 3, avoid lunacy, on both sides of the love-hate angle, and 4, avoid UnderTale porn. I will elaborate on all these points later. My first impressions? Well, because I cannot actually show you my first impressions since I didn't record them back in the end of October when I first played this game, I can actually talk about an interesting feature this game has built into it instead. See, you have one save file. One. And when you play, the game remembers what you did on your last playthrough. As you can see here, Flowey already seems to know me, even though I opted to restart the game from the beginning. When you play, you are playing for keeps. And, well, you gotta deal with the repercussions of the decisions you made from playthrough to playthrough. Characters will even act as though they somehow recognize you, even though you're technically just meeting them for the first time again. This also means there's an option to make a horrible decision in one playthrough that will unfortunately be remembered bitterly by your save file in future playthroughs. In UnderTale, your decisions matter. Most games with a morality play mechanic have a clear good versus evil path. It doesn't really affect your gameplay on the whole, and on the surface it's just a coat of paint for the most part, and that's that. But in UnderTale, there are at least 2 characters following your every playthrough, remembering your past decisions and making sure to remind you subtly what you did before, as if to say, I am watching you. Some decisions are permanent and irrevocable too, and that's about as much as I can say. Needless to say, it is possible to screw up your game file entirely. Sure, you can erase the file straight from your folder, but you'll know what you did. Now, I had the good fortune of being introduced to this game through my wife, who herself was introduced to it by a friend of hers, who himself was introduced to it by, well, you get the point. I had been playing a lot of Town of Salem at the time, and I noticed that she was drawn instantly to this game. From one day to the other, she got to the point where she couldn't stop talking about it. She was quoting characters from the game, she changed her desktop image, she was begging me to buy her future plush toys from this game, so I bought the game myself just to see what the fuss was all about. Thank God I had no clue whatsoever the surrounding hype and controversy this game had at the time, because I was able to experience it, spoiler, and idiot-free. Let me tell you, this is a well-crafted little game. The gameplay elements are decidedly different should you choose to be a murdering, bloodthirsty psychopath, or should you choose to attempt to persevere as a pacifist. Let me tell you, both paths are just about equally challenging. To have combined the shoot-'em-up bullet-avoiding gameplay elements with RPG and storytelling elements was a truly brilliant idea, and it's what makes the game surprisingly addictive. The writing, well, let's be honest, it's not going to win a Pulitzer Prize anytime soon, okay? I liken the dialogue most of the monsters you encounter in the game have to Sesame Street characters. Some are more infantile and silly than others, some are just plain dark all around, and some seem silly and goofy on the surface, but show a different attitude when you get to know them better. These monsters that you meet all have some sort of personal quest or goal going on, but the monsters collectively also have a goal together to get out of their underground prison. And that's what draws people to the game. It's not that the characters are necessarily relatable, it's that they're interesting. As you play through, you may start rolling your eyes at one character's silly dialogue and then later on be surprised by how much you suddenly care for this dumb set of goofy pixels. The game does its best to give you feels, in many different ways. Yes, even if you happen to believe you're above enjoying a bit of juvenile humor and fart jokes.
But I definitely think Earthbound was the biggest influence on me as an RPG game.
So you had some under your belt at that point, but Earthbound still rocked you?
Yeah, I think Earthbound was one of the games that taught me how to read.
As you could discern from his interview with Game Informer, aside from a very defined love for the SNES sleeper hit Earthbound, Toby Fox also has a particular love for puns and running gags. If you played and loved Earthbound, you will notice a lot of thematic similarities. From the writing style to the protagonist to the game's other characters, hell, even one of the big bads himself is very reminiscent of one of Earthbound's big bads. The childlike, jokey writing style is strikingly similar to Earthbound. Both games have a quasi-infantile manner mixed in with a little bit of adult appeal. The game is so child-friendly, in fact, that sometimes instead of reading her a bedtime story, I simply do this. Here is how my daughter was introduced to what is now one of her favorite games.
You're going to take the human soul yourself? But Undyne, you don't have to destroy them, you see? You see? What's gonna happen?
No!
I understand. I'll help you in any way I can. Ooh.
When does Undyne speak?
She already knows who Undyne is because she's already seen the story before. So Annie, who's your favorite character in UnderTale?
It's Metatime.
Why?
Because he's the cutest robot in the world, and I want to join his fan club with Brady and Caddy.
Okay.
What?
Going back to the similarities with Earthbound, the map itself is one continuous world, screen to screen, rather than separate areas you access individually. Thank God there's a ferry to travel on, and this subway system. The presentation, the art style, the very music itself. Has an inconfusible Earthbound taste to it. It is clear as day to me where Fox's inspiration comes from. But even with so many things these games have in common, UnderTale still steps out from the shadow of its mentor game and does its own thing. Mostly different in gameplay mechanics and the fact that he has added a morality element to his game. Now, as a guy who enjoys his video games, I feel very much disenfranchised by both sides of the UnderTale love-hate spectrum. The fanbase is, for the most part, rabid and off-putting. Comparable to the Steven Universe fanbase. You know, the one that turned viciously on its own creator for daring to defend one of her own fans' fan art? Expect these 6 sycophants to eventually turn on Fox and chastise him for not making a sequel or some shit. Most of these people are better not seen or heard. On the flip side of that, you have the people who hate this game for absolutely no reason other than it is played by and enjoyed by SJWs, and the aforementioned 6 sycophants, of course. Rest assured, if you do enjoy this game and like me, you don't feel a need to lord your enjoyment of it over other folks, parading how wonderful and great you are for playing an allegedly progressive, anti-cis, down-with-the-patriarchy game, then congratulations, you're normal. Hell, Toby Fox himself, when asked by the existential gamer about the sexual orientation of his characters, as well as what his thoughts on sexuality and gaming was in general, pretty much avoided the subject and refused to wax political with his slimy interviewer. Well done, Mr. Fox. You have my utmost respect for not playing along with that stupidity. As for me, when I played it, at no point did I stop to think about gender roles in video games. At no point did I feel this game was trying to convince me to tear down the patriarchy, chop off my penis with a butcher's knife, set myself on fire for being such a fat cis pig, and remove myself from the gene pool in the name of gender equality. Far from it. Hell, it didn't even register to me that these 2 knights were even gay. You know why? Because I was too busy playing the damn game. They were written in the same cartoony, innocent charm as every other character in the game. Not like this.
Our daddy taught us not to be ashamed of our dicks, especially since they're such good size and all.
Yeah, I see that. Your daddy gave you good advice.
It gets bigger when I pull on it.
And if you want to see the bad side of the fandom, the truly sick side of the fandom, you need look no further than their porn. Rule34.net's largest growing section is their UnderTale section. Oh yeah, UnderTale is currently sitting at 39 pages of porn and growing. And for some odd reason, the insane fandom of this game has come to a consensus on Sans' penis. Apparently it's ghostly and glowing blue, and his splooge is apparently radioactive. I don't know, see pages 31 and 33 for most references to that, even though at no point in the game does Sans actually show his bone. Why, fanbase? Why? This is why we can't have nice things! Because you have an obsession with hypersexualizing even the most innocent of characters! I ain't even kidding. Even minor cameo characters and random encounter enemies aren't spared. From a gaming standpoint, and just from a gaming standpoint, ignoring everything the world has to say about UnderTale, you should give this game a try. And not because some 15-year-old furry nutted all over a hypersexualized picture of Toriel and decided he's never going to love anyone but her ever again, and not because some grumpy guy who feels he's too good for an allegedly SJW wankfest game tells you it's the most pandering piece of shit he's ever not played, and make no mistake, most of these haters have not played it. Play it because it is basically Toby Fox's love letter to Earthbound. Play it because this was made mostly by one guy over a time span of 2.5 years. Play it because it is made by a guy that clearly lived, ate, and breathed gaming throughout his entire life.
I played Earthbound 0 on an emulator when I was like 8 or 9 or something.
Is
And then I
Earthbound?
was like waiting for Mother 3 ever since, and when it finally came out, I was like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. Yeah, I've never beaten Final Fantasy V. I relate to like the length thing, because that was another thing. I wanted it to be short and to get to the point, because I beat Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
That was like 80 hours of my life that just disappeared.
Play it because it's a unique combination of RPG, puzzle, bullet hell shoot 'em up, and visual novel all neatly interwoven into one. It may not be the most technologically advanced game ever, but it doesn't pretend to be. Toby Fox did a remarkable job of combining story and gameplay, something RPGs tend to separate from one another. Nothing you do in combat in an RPG tends to have any impact on how the story plays out. It's for the most part, kill this and continue with your quest. Play UnderTale and you'll understand it. And then you'll wish you were the only person who knew about it. Just don't be swayed by either of the love it or hate it factions, for both will almost certainly turn you off of what is, in my opinion, a very unique game. Oh crap, did we almost do the entire review without our weekly gimmick reviewer? Yes, dear viewer, in the comments section, please tell us what review or gimmick you would like to see me do next week, as well as what you would like to see reviewed. But for today, I suppose we're just gonna have to hire a random in-game character to do our value section. I don't feel up to it. Ah, geez. Okay, alright. So value. Here are the positives and the negatives. So many elements of this game are unique and different from the average RPGs you can buy on Steam. It even makes fun of common RPG elements like shops and inns. So many of the elements of this game are also familiar and even reminiscent of a few other games. This game has great music. I'd know. I'm something of a connoisseur. Oh, a classic spook tune. They don't make songs like this anymore. If I do say so myself, there's tons of interesting characters in my world. I'm just not one of them. And the one thing UnderTale has going for it the most is how it uses its own unique gameplay mechanics to further its own story. It's a brilliantly programmed game full of surprises that encourages you to try different approaches. The length of the game is both thankfully short, but also too short. In other words, I'm happy I can complete it in a 6 to 7 hour time span, but I'm also disappointed there's not more of it. Comparisons to Earthbound abound. They're unavoidable. This is both a blessing and a curse, depending on who you ask. For me, it's just right. Negatives. Negatives. Ah, geez, I have enough of that. But the love and hate this game receives online can kill your drive to play this. Just do what I do. Shut yourself indoors and veg to it. This game might feel a little too childlike and playful for some adults. You may think you're too good to let yourself love on some monsters, and if that ever happens, just know I'll shed a tear for every moment you let yourself think this game is not worthy of your time. Lastly, as Ace has said, this game is child-friendly, but in reality, that's only if you want to play a pacifist route. You'll want to avoid the genocide route if you don't want to give your kids therapy bills for years to come. I know Asa still refuses to do a genocide run to this day. Overall, it's a decently priced game at $9.99 on Steam. If you can get it on sale, more power to you. It is for sure worth the full price. Thank you, Napstiplook. Now let's take a look at this week's deals on Steam. Suits, a business RPG, is going for 59 cents. Got it in my library, someone gave it to me for Christmas. I've yet to play it though. The rating on it is positive, however, and the risk is very low, so it's a safe bet. Unrest is an unfortunately priced game at $14.99 regularly. I enjoyed the story of this one particularly, But for 100% completion, and that is getting each and every single possible achievement and event in this RPG/visual novel, clocks in at about 4 hours tops. Maybe even faster if you're just clicking through each dialogue. Even at its discounted price, it's a hard sell at $3.74. I really wish they would drop the retail price to something like $3.74 and then put it on sale, actually. I have a review of this one on Steam Up. Lastly, Showtime is definitely worth the $1.49 they're asking for. I'll just read my review of it for you. Made a movie called The Death of Anita Sarkeesian, where I tweaked the script for months until all stats were at 5 stars. Hired the best director and the best actresses to star. It was released to rave reviews and got a 96% approval rating. Then I milked it for sequel after sequel. I started in 1927. It is now 1970, and 27 Death of Anita Sarkeesian movies have been released. 10 out of 10, wouldn't change a thing. Thank you for watching, thank you for commenting, and tune in next week to see if we're still on the air. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.